Hey, probably the first thing that you are trying to do when you are getting a new laptop or just getting started with JavaScript and Node.js, it is the actual installation process of Node.js and NPM, which is absolutely necessary to start coding with it or just even running some projects that you found open source. In today's video, I'm going to go over the installation process which is best suited for multiple operating systems including Windows, and which is probably the most problematic one, but the open source community had all the courage to develop their own version for specifically Windows. So today's topic is going to be an NVM, which stands out as Node Version Manager, and depending on what kind of project you are developing or trying to run, you will like to get a Node.js version specifically suited for that. And it's not only for that specific reason, but also getting some up-to-date latest versions of Node.js, which you probably know is updates every 6 months, and you are getting LTS versions and also other stable versions in a more dynamic way. So to stay up to date and to keep track of your environment, you have to have a tool which obviously developed by open source community and called NVM. So without NVM, you actually are going to uninstalling and installing Node.js all the time when you need it. And especially if you are developing some specific Node.js specific version-based applications and you have multiple requirements on your environments, you have to have an NVM in order to be safe for developing your environment there. So in today's video, we're going to install that on Mac, Linux, and Windows. So without more discussions, let's just jump on the installation process, and we'll go over the actual environment setup that you will need for running an NVM. So NVM installation on a Mac is very easy thing to do. You just have to navigate to NVM's GitHub page, and basically they have here a simple installation script that works pretty much on every Unix-based operating system, including all of the Linuxes that they have like pretty much standard bash and curl already pre-installed. You just have to copy this installation script that they have on their GitHub main page, and basically after putting that in your bash terminal environment, hitting enter, they pretty much downloading all necessary things that NVM wants to have on your environment in order to run properly. And after a couple of seconds, you will get this final installation, like 3 lines at the bottom that basically represents the actual bash environment configuration that NVM has to have in order to separate their home script page and their bash completion and the actual bash scripts that they require in order just to download NPM and other packages. So what you are going to do is basically copy this 3 lines, open up your bash profile, bash RC, or any other sourcing script that you have on your environment, depending on you are using Zhash or bash RC. And basically at the bottom of your bash RC, you should have these 3 lines inputted so that NVM will work in any time when you open a terminal and will try to run some commands with it. So after that, it is like pretty simple that you'll get the rest of the functionality on your system by just running an NVM and typing help just to get all of the commands that you need. But most importantly, you could just get the actual Node versions that you need to install by typing, like, let's say NVM install LTS or latest, and so that NVM will pull up the latest version of your Node.js, and then you can basically make NVM ls to get the actual versions that you have currently installed and probably use one of them. Let's say I'm trying to use this version, and that's it. My Node version right now switched to version 12, which is one of my versions of Node that I had previously as an LTS version. So that's probably it for the Mac. No other things that you have to do. The actual NVM installation comes also with the NPM, so you don't have to install NPM separately. So now let's take a look on Linux installation, which is absolutely the same as the actual Mac installation, because they probably the same environment configurations that you will need, and the actual process is completely the same. You just have to copy paste the installation script that NVM has on the front page and just hit the paste for your terminal, and after like having the actual download, it will print out the same 3 lines of bash rc or bash profile or zsh, whenever you are using for your main scripting environment. You have to just add that. In my case, it is bash rc because I'm using a default Ubuntu installation and I already have it. But these 3 lines are crucial, and if you are trying to put that in the wrong place, or you will try to make that not loadable statically, it probably won't work for some scripts. Let's say if you are trying to make that available for all users, you most probably have to put that in a source directory bash profile, which means that all of the users will get that script availability. But after that, like, it basically same command process, like having NVM ls or NVM not found. Let's restart the terminal, and after restarting the terminal, I'm getting NVM now available. I can type NVM install LTS, which is basically going to pull the latest LTS version of the node and going to install all the necessary environment variables and packages that you need, and we'll separate that from different node versions that you have so that you can switch between them if you have to. And it says that it installed, and it configured already with the alias, which means I can type node and I'll get the actual node installed. And the same goes with NPM, which is the same available after installing the Node.js. It comes by default. So the most trickiest part, as you might guess, is Windows installation, because Windows is not well suited for Linux-based tools. They don't have the same environment variable configuration types, so that most of the scripts that are written in bash and specifically for Linux environments, they don't really work well on Windows environments. In that sense, the actual NVM community stepped out and made a new version of NVM, which is kind of completely separate code base and repository that the actual NVM, and ironically it's written in Go, which means that the actual Node.js package manager for Windows written in Go. And if you curious why they actually choose Go, just write down a comment below. I'll try to explain with more details, because they have really big reasons why they choose Go for writing this type of CLI applications. But the actual installation process that they got is pretty simpler, I would say, than it could be for Windows type of systems. You just have to go on their download page, and instead of having these weird scripts for Windows as a regular Windows application, you might download the actual setup installer package, which is basically step-by-step installation wizard, which helps you to understand well what the actual setup process is. Instead of making the weird compilation, you can make the actual compilation from source that they have. Because it's written in Go, you should have a Go installed on your Windows system. But anyway, we're not going to dive into that. It's just very simple setup installation process if you'll just choose a wizard. So after having this wizard installed and opening the CMD, most probably you will get the actual NVM already available on your terminal, as you can see here. So the most important thing is that on a Windows, because they have a pretty different code base setup, they also have different CLI environment, which means that you are not getting the same like command line arguments as you will get in the actual NVM for Linux or Mac. Here it's a little bit different. Let's say if you will try to install an LTS version, as you might do on Mac or Linux, it might tell that, hey, this version is not available, because they have a different set of commands specified for this. I'm not sure why they did this, why they couldn't just copy the existing CLI interface to their Go application, but the actual process is just you have to type, let's say, install latest, which is going to pull a latest version of Node.js and will basically install everything you need without specifying a version that you have to have. So it actually tries to download version 40, which is the latest version. It's not an LTS version that you might get, but you could also type, instead of latest, the actual LTS, which is not a dashed command. Probably Windows users not used to have dashed commands as most of the Linux or Mac applications does. So after this downloading process is completed and Node successfully installed, you are going to have an NVM ls command, which basically lists out all Node versions that you have currently on your Windows. And instead of having the use of automatic use of Node version that you have installed last, as NVM is doing. Remember, if we haven't actually specified NVM use for Linux or Mac, we just install the latest version and it automatically used. For Windows, you have to specify, let's say, NVM use and the actual version, otherwise it won't work, because most probably Windows developers for this application just thought that it might be very helpful just to specify a version instead of reusing that automatically. Well, after like running this command and getting that administrative prompt, you will have an actual node running in your system with the version. Same works also with the PowerShell, and because it probably uses the same environment as the rest of the command line interface that Windows is using. And you can basically use a PowerShell if you get used to that, or command prompt if you are kind of old school thing. So that's probably it for Windows. The rest of the application should be pretty same as you used to. The most important thing as a last note for Windows, for Linux and Macs, it is very important that you are not opening the command prompt or PowerShell in administrative mode if you are going to develop your application and will try to make an NPM install. First reason is that it is going to install all of your packages in administrative mode, and because of that your file access will be very limited because of the permissions that NPM will set up for you. This is most important thing, because if you won't do that, you will get a lot of errors during application development, and I saw that a lot in junior developers, that they don't care about these admin permissions and running everything in admin, but they get a lot of errors along the way. This is the most important thing. Just use a regular, don't run in administrative mode if you don't have to run that, and reuse your script globally. So same goes with the Linux. If you just got an installation process for NPM and you are trying to, let's say, NPM install some package globally, don't write a sudo from the beginning. This will break all of your NPM files of installing globally later on, because when you are making a first time an NPM install, basically you don't have an NPM directory or global directory on your home page, and if you'll do that first time with the sudo, it will make as a sudo user, and the rest of the installations you have to have with the sudo, and most probably you will have a permission file conflicts along the way when you will try to open that files in basic editors or IDEs. So don't write a sudo here, and just keep that with a simple command line interface as you used to. Let's say I'm trying to install Yarn, and because this global directory exists in my home directory, I don't have to write a sudo for installing that globally. It's all available through environment variable that NVM is giving. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't yet subscribed, click that subscribe button and stay tuned for the rest of upcoming tutorials.